Imagine walking into a room where no one notices you. 10 minutes later, everyone is watching you, not because you spoke the loudest, not because you demanded attention, but because, without saying much, you quietly took control of the room. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people believe power belongs to the strongest, the richest, or the smartest person in the room. History tells a different story. Again and again, the people who shaped kingdoms, built empires, transformed industries, and influenced millions were rarely the most powerful when they began. They simply understood something that others ignored. People reveal far more than they intend. Every hesitation, every emotion, every careless word, every hidden desire, these become pieces of a puzzle, and the one who can read that puzzle is always several moves ahead. Life is not just about talent. It is a game of perception, a game of patience, a game of timing. While everyone else reacts to what is happening, a strategic mind predicts what will happen next. That is where true advantage is born. The greatest victories are often invisible. No shouting, no fighting, no unnecessary conflict, only calm observation, disciplined thinking, and decisions made with precision. Because the person who controls their emotions often controls the outcome. The person who understands human nature is rarely surprised. And the person who sees the hidden motivations behind people's actions is almost impossible to deceive. Today, we are going to uncover 5 timeless rules that can completely change the way you think, communicate, and navigate the world around you. These are not tricks. They are not shortcuts. They are principles rooted in patterns that have repeated throughout history in business, leadership, negotiation, and everyday life. When understood wisely and used ethically, they help you avoid manipulation, recognize hidden intentions, make better decisions, and quietly build influence without forcing it. So, as you watch, don't just listen, observe. Question. Reflect, because by the end of this journey, you may discover that the greatest advantage is not having more strength than everyone else. It's understanding people better than they understand themselves. Let's begin with the first rule. The first rule is deceptively simple, yet it separates the people who constantly find themselves manipulated from those who quietly stay several steps ahead of everyone else. Before you try to influence anyone, before you try to persuade, negotiate, defend yourself, or prove your intelligence, learn to observe. Most people enter every conversation with one goal already fixed in their minds. They want to speak. They want to impress. They want to explain who they are, what they know, and why they are right. In doing so, they reveal everything while learning almost nothing about the person standing in front of them. The one who speaks first often feels powerful, but the one who understands first is the one who truly holds the advantage. Human beings are far more predictable than they would ever like to admit. We imagine ourselves to be mysterious, independent thinkers, making decisions through logic and reason. Yet beneath the surface, our emotions, insecurities, ambitions, fears, and desires quietly direct nearly every choice we make. Most people never hide these things as well as they believe. They leak through subtle expressions, changes in tone, unnecessary explanations, restless movements, moments of silence, and emotional reactions that appear for only a fraction of a second. These are not random details. They are signals. To an untrained mind, they disappear unnoticed. To a careful observer, they reveal an entire story. Think about how often someone tells you exactly what they want without ever saying it directly. A person who constantly reminds everyone of their honesty may actually be worried about trust. Someone who repeatedly talks about success may be seeking validation more than achievement. Another person who dominates every conversation may not be displaying confidence at all, but trying desperately to hide insecurity. The louder people try to convince the world of a certain image, the more carefully you should examine what lies beneath it. Actions and patterns almost always carry more truth than carefully chosen words. Observation requires something that has become incredibly rare in today's world: patience. Modern life encourages immediate reactions. Social media rewards instant opinions. Conversations become competitions where everyone waits only for their turn to speak. Few people possess the discipline to simply remain silent for a moment longer than feels comfortable. Yet silence has a remarkable effect. It creates space. People naturally rush to fill empty space, and in doing so, they often reveal information they never intended to share. They explain too much. They justify themselves unnecessarily. They expose motivations that would have remained hidden if someone had interrupted them. Silence is often mistaken for weakness because it looks passive. In reality, disciplined silence is one of the strongest positions you can occupy. It demonstrates emotional control. It forces others to continue talking while you continue learning. Every additional sentence they speak gives you another piece of information. Every unnecessary detail becomes another clue. Meanwhile, you reveal almost nothing about yourself. This imbalance of information quietly shifts the advantage in your favor. Consider the experienced negotiator who never rushes to answer an offer. Instead of reacting emotionally, they pause. That brief pause creates uncertainty. The other side begins questioning themselves. They wonder if they offered too much or too little. To reduce their own discomfort, they often continue talking, offering explanations, concessions, or additional details they had never planned to reveal. The negotiator did not force them to speak. They simply understood that people dislike silence more than they dislike giving away information. Observation extends beyond listening to words. You must begin watching for consistency. Anyone can maintain an image for a few minutes. Very few people can maintain it over weeks, months, or years. Patterns always expose reality. Notice what excites someone, what irritates them, what they repeatedly complain about, what they avoid discussing, and where they invest their time. These patterns reveal priorities far more accurately than promises ever will. Trust repeated behavior more than impressive speeches. Another mistake people make is assuming intelligence means having the fastest answer. In truth, strategic thinking often means delaying judgment until enough evidence has accumulated. When you label someone too quickly, you stop observing them. You begin filtering every action through your first impression. If you decide someone is trustworthy immediately, you ignore warning signs. If you assume someone is dishonest from the beginning, you overlook genuine acts of integrity. Observation requires flexibility. It demands that you keep collecting evidence instead of becoming attached to your assumptions. Emotions are the greatest enemy of observation. The moment anger enters your mind, your vision narrows. The moment pride takes control, you stop learning. Fear makes ordinary situations appear threatening. Envy causes you to misinterpret success. Excitement blinds you to obvious risks. Emotional reactions are not simply feelings. They are filters that distort reality. This is why emotional discipline is not merely a personal virtue, but a strategic advantage. A calm mind notices details that an emotional mind completely misses. Imagine entering a meeting where everyone is eager to prove themselves. One person interrupts constantly. Another agrees with every opinion. Someone else criticizes every suggestion without offering alternatives. Instead of immediately judging these behaviors, ask yourself what they might reveal. The interrupter may fear becoming irrelevant. The agreeable person may value acceptance over honesty. The constant critic may be protecting themselves from responsibility by never committing to an idea. Once you understand the motivation beneath the behavior, predicting future actions becomes much easier. People often reveal themselves most clearly when they believe no one is paying attention. Watch how they treat those who cannot benefit them. Notice whether they remain respectful when frustrated. Observe how they respond to small disappointments instead of dramatic successes. Character rarely appears during carefully planned moments. It emerges during ordinary ones. A single unexpected inconvenience often reveals more about someone than an entire afternoon of conversation. There is another benefit to becoming an observer. You become far more difficult to manipulate. Manipulation depends upon provoking emotional reactions before rational thought has time to intervene. Someone insults you hoping you react impulsively. Someone flatters you hoping your judgment softens. Someone creates urgency so you stop thinking critically. But when observation becomes your habit, your first instinct is no longer reaction. It is curiosity. Instead of asking, "How should I respond?" you begin asking, "Why are they behaving this way?" That single question creates distance between emotion and action, allowing you to make choices rather than merely react. This rule is not about becoming suspicious of everyone. It is about becoming aware. Awareness protects you from deception while helping you understand people more deeply. It improves relationships because you stop listening only to respond and begin listening to understand. It strengthens leadership because you recognize what motivates each individual instead of assuming everyone thinks like you. It improves decision making because your conclusions are based on observation rather than assumption. The irony is that the people who appear the least aggressive often possess the greatest strategic advantage. They are rarely the loudest voice in the room. They rarely demand attention. They simply notice what others overlook. They collect information patiently, connect seemingly unrelated details, and wait until the right moment to act. By the time everyone else realizes what is happening, the decisive move has already been made. True advantage rarely begins with action. More often, it begins with disciplined observation, quiet patience, and the willingness to see human nature exactly as it is rather than as people wish it to appear. The second rule is one that most people resist because it demands the greatest form of discipline. Master your emotions before they master you. Every day, countless opportunities are lost not because people lack intelligence, talent, or experience, but because they allow a single moment of anger, fear, excitement, or pride to make decisions on their behalf. The world is filled with intelligent individuals who repeatedly sabotage themselves simply because they react before they think. They confuse impulse with courage, emotion with truth, and immediate satisfaction with lasting victory. The truly strategic person understands that emotions are valuable signals, but they should never become the driver of your actions. Think about the moments you regret the most. It is rarely the decision you spent days carefully considering. More often, it is the message you sent in anger, the argument you refused to walk away from, the promise you made in excitement, or the opportunity you abandoned because fear whispered that you were not ready. A few emotional seconds can create consequences that last for years. Yet when those emotions finally fade, you often look back and wonder, what was I thinking? The answer is simple. You were not thinking. You were reacting. Human beings are naturally emotional creatures. This is neither a flaw nor a weakness. Emotions exist to help us survive. Fear warns us of danger. Anger pushes us to defend ourselves. Joy encourages connection. Sadness forces reflection. These emotions have a purpose. The problem begins when they take control in situations that require strategy instead of instinct. Modern life presents challenges that cannot be solved through emotional impulses alone. Negotiations, leadership, relationships, business, and personal growth all demand clarity, patience, and measured responses. The person who cannot control their emotions eventually becomes predictable, and predictability is one of the greatest vulnerabilities anyone can possess. Imagine playing a game of chess against someone who becomes visibly frustrated every time they lose a piece. After only a few moves, you no longer need to analyze the board. You simply provoke their emotions. Their frustration clouds their judgment, and they begin making mistakes they would never make under normal circumstances. Life operates in much the same way. There are people who understand this deeply. They know that defeating you physically or intellectually is difficult, but defeating your emotions is often remarkably easy. A careless insult, a carefully timed compliment, a false rumor, or a manufactured crisis can pull your attention away from logic and into reaction. The moment you surrender control of your emotions, you surrender control of your decisions. One of the greatest misconceptions about emotional control is that it means suppressing your feelings. It does not. Suppression only buries emotions until they eventually explode with greater force. True mastery begins with awareness. You recognize what you are feeling without allowing that feeling to dictate your behavior. Anger may rise within you, but you choose your words carefully. Fear may appear, but you continue evaluating the situation objectively. Excitement may tempt you into rushing forward, but you pause long enough to examine the risks. Emotional mastery is not the absence of feeling, it is the presence of choice. Notice how easily people reveal themselves through their emotional reactions. Some become defensive whenever they receive constructive criticism. Others become arrogant after small successes. Some panic when plans change unexpectedly. Others collapse under rejection because they have attached their self-worth to external approval. These reactions are not random. They expose hidden weaknesses that observant people can easily recognize. Every uncontrolled emotional response becomes information. It tells the world exactly where your pressure points are. This is why calmness is so powerful. Calmness unsettles people who expect emotional reactions. When someone attempts to provoke you and you remain composed, they lose the advantage they hope to gain. They begin questioning their own strategy. They often become emotional themselves, revealing far more than they intended. Remaining calm is not passive. It is an active demonstration that your mind belongs to you, not to the circumstances surrounding you. There is a reason why experienced leaders rarely make important decisions during moments of extreme emotion. They understand that today's crisis may appear completely different tomorrow. Time has a remarkable ability to separate emotion from reality. What feels urgent in one moment often becomes insignificant after a single night's rest. Delaying a decision is not always hesitation. Sometimes it is wisdom. Giving yourself space allows logic to catch up with emotion. It allows facts to replace assumptions and perspective to replace panic. Pride deserves special attention because it disguises itself as strength while quietly creating weakness. Pride convinces people they already know enough. It prevents them from admitting mistakes. It encourages unnecessary battles simply to protect their image. It whispers that apologizing is defeat and that changing your mind is a sign of weakness. In reality, pride traps people inside decisions that no longer serve them. The strongest individuals are often those who can admit they were wrong without feeling diminished. Their confidence comes from truth, not appearance. Fear creates a different kind of prison. It rarely arrives dramatically. Instead, it quietly invents convincing stories. It tells you that failure will destroy your reputation, that rejection is unbearable, or that uncertainty is too dangerous to face. Most of these fears never become reality. Yet countless dreams disappear because people treat imagined disasters as inevitable outcomes. Fear narrows your vision until every possibility appears threatening. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to let fear become the author of your decisions. Excitement can be equally dangerous because positive emotions often lower our defenses. During moments of success, people become overconfident. They underestimate competitors, ignore warning signs, and assume every future decision will produce the same outcome. History repeatedly demonstrates that great victories often plant the seeds of future failure. Success creates comfort, comfort reduces vigilance, and reduced vigilance invites mistakes. Remaining emotionally balanced means treating both victory and defeat with the same thoughtful mindset. Celebrate success, but never let it blind you. Learn from failure, but never let it define you. The people who consistently succeed over long periods share one remarkable quality. They do not allow temporary emotions to determine permanent decisions. They understand that every emotional storm eventually passes. Anger fades, fear weakens, excitement settles, disappointment softens. But the consequences of decisions made during those storms often remain. This understanding creates patience. Instead of reacting immediately, they observe their own emotions as carefully as they observe other people. They ask themselves difficult questions. Am I seeing the situation clearly, or am I simply feeling it intensely? Is this decision based on facts, or is it based on wounded pride? Am I moving toward an opportunity, or merely escaping discomfort? Perhaps the greatest advantage of emotional mastery is that it grants freedom. Most people believe they are making independent choices while unknowingly responding to external triggers. An insult changes their mood. A compliment changes their confidence. A setback destroys their motivation. Praise inflates their ego. Their emotional state rises and falls according to the actions of others. They become prisoners of circumstances they cannot control. The disciplined individual refuses to hand over that power. They choose responses instead of reactions. They remain steady while others become overwhelmed. Their consistency becomes a source of quiet strength that people naturally respect. In the end, the battlefield where the greatest victories are won is rarely outside you. It exists within your own mind. Every day presents countless opportunities to surrender control to impulse or to strengthen the habit of thoughtful restraint. The people who appear impossible to manipulate are not immune to emotion. They simply understand it, manage it, and refuse to let temporary feelings decide the direction of their lives. That quiet discipline becomes an invisible shield protecting their judgment, preserving their clarity, and allowing every action they take to be guided not by impulse, but by purpose. The third rule is one that quietly determines who gains influence and who unknowingly gives it away. Never reveal your full intentions too early. Human nature is curious by design. The moment people believe they know exactly what you are planning, they begin preparing for it. Some will question your motives. Others will compete with you. A few may even attempt to discourage you, not because your goal is impossible, but because your progress reminds them of their own inaction. This is why wisdom often lies not in secrecy for its own sake, but in understanding the value of timing. There is a difference between being dishonest and being discreet. One destroys trust, while the other protects opportunity. Many people make the mistake of announcing every ambition the moment it enters their minds. They speak about the business they are going to build, the skills they are going to master, the wealth they are going to create, or the transformation they are about to begin. They mistake talking for progress. For a brief moment, the praise and encouragement they receive create the illusion of achievement. Their minds experience a small reward before any real work has been done. Slowly, that excitement fades, and so does the urgency to act. The dream remains alive in conversation but dies in reality. There is a strange comfort in speaking about success, yet genuine success is almost always built in silence. Look closely at the people who consistently achieve remarkable things. Very often, they spend more time working than announcing. While others seek recognition for every step they take, they remain focused on the next step ahead. Their confidence comes from progress, not applause. They understand that attention is a double-edged sword. It attracts admiration, but it also attracts unnecessary opinions, expectations, distractions, and resistance. Every person you tell about your plans adds another voice to your mind. Some voices encourage you. Others fill you with doubt. Before long, you are no longer pursuing your own vision. You are trying to satisfy everyone's expectations. People naturally react to change, especially when it challenges their comfort. Imagine someone who has always known you as quiet, ordinary, or predictable. The moment they see you becoming more disciplined, more successful, or more ambitious, they may not celebrate your growth. Instead, they may unconsciously try to pull you back toward the version of you that feels familiar. They may joke about your new habits, question your decisions, or suggest that your goals are unrealistic. Often they do not even realize they are doing it. Human beings find comfort in stability, and another person's transformation can quietly unsettle that comfort. This is why your actions should always speak louder than your announcements. Let people discover your progress rather than hear promises about it. A completed result carries far greater weight than an unfinished intention. Anyone can describe the life they hope to build. Far fewer possess the discipline to build it quietly until the evidence becomes undeniable. Results silence skepticism more effectively than arguments ever could. There is another reason to guard your intentions carefully. Information has value. Every detail you reveal becomes knowledge that others can use. In business, negotiations, leadership, and even personal relationships, timing often determines success. If people know your exact destination, they can anticipate your next move. They can prepare objections, create obstacles, or position themselves in ways that reduce your advantage. But when your intentions remain measured and your actions remain consistent, others are forced to respond to reality rather than speculation. This does not mean living behind a mask or becoming suspicious of everyone around you. Trust is an essential part of meaningful relationships. The lesson is about discernment. Not every dream needs an audience. Not every plan requires approval. Learn the difference between those who genuinely support your growth and those who merely enjoy hearing about your ambitions without contributing to them. Share your vision with people who help strengthen it, not with those who unintentionally weaken your focus. Patience becomes especially important here. Many people crave immediate recognition because recognition feels like proof that they matter. But lasting influence is rarely built through constant visibility. It is built through consistency. Imagine two individuals beginning the same journey. One spends every week announcing new goals, posting updates, and explaining future success. The other quietly studies, practices, improves, and remains largely unnoticed. Months later, one has collected attention while the other has collected competence. When real opportunities appear, competence always outlasts attention. Observe how nature itself operates. The strongest roots grow beneath the surface where no one applauds their progress. Long before a towering tree becomes visible, its foundation has already expanded deep into the earth. If those roots were weak, the first powerful storm would bring the tree down. Human achievement follows the same principle. The invisible work determines the visible outcome. Discipline developed in private becomes confidence displayed in public. There is also a psychological advantage to keeping your intentions close. When people cannot easily predict you, they are forced to observe rather than assume. Predictability invites complacency. Unpredictability commands attention. This does not mean behaving randomly or creating confusion. It means allowing your actions to emerge from thoughtful preparation rather than constant explanation. Quiet confidence has a unique presence because it removes the need for validation. It says, "I do not need to convince you today. Time will speak for me." Another common trap is believing that explaining yourself will always earn understanding. In reality, excessive explanation often creates more questions than answers. People interpret your words through their own experiences, fears, and biases. No matter how clearly you speak, some will misunderstand you. Others will doubt you regardless of the evidence. Instead of exhausting yourself trying to manage every opinion, focus your energy on producing work that gradually makes those opinions irrelevant. This principle becomes even more powerful during difficult periods. When progress feels slow, there is a temptation to seek reassurance by talking constantly about future plans. Resist that temptation. Let setbacks become classrooms instead of public performances. Every challenge teaches something valuable, but only if your attention remains on learning rather than defending your image. Quiet perseverance often produces stronger character than public declarations ever could. Think about individuals whose achievements seem to surprise everyone around them. People often describe them as overnight successes, yet what appeared sudden was usually the result of years of unseen preparation. While others were distracted by appearances, these individuals were refining their skills, expanding their knowledge, correcting mistakes, and building habits that nobody noticed. Their success looked unexpected only because their work had remained invisible. The discipline of measured speech also protects your peace of mind. Every promise you announce creates pressure to satisfy expectations. Every public declaration becomes another source of anxiety if progress slows. But when your primary commitment is to the work itself, you are free to improve without performing for an audience. Your motivation becomes internal rather than external, and that kind of motivation endures far longer. Ultimately, influence belongs not to those who make the biggest promises, but to those whose actions consistently exceed expectations. There is a quiet strength in allowing your work to introduce you before your words ever do. When people underestimate you because you speak less, they often give you the greatest gift imaginable, the freedom to prepare without interference. By the time your intentions become visible, they are no longer intentions at all. They have become reality, and reality is far more convincing than even the most confident speech. So, as we reach the end, remember this: the world does not belong to the loudest voice. It does not belong to the person who reacts the fastest. And it certainly does not belong to the one who constantly seeks attention. It belongs to those who see what others overlook, to those who remain calm when everyone else loses control, to those who understand that every conversation, every challenge, and every relationship carries hidden patterns waiting to be recognized. The 5 rules you've learned today are not weapons to control people. They are tools to strengthen yourself, because the greatest victory is never forcing others to follow your path. It is becoming so disciplined, so aware, and so difficult to deceive that no obstacle, no manipulation, and no moment of chaos can easily shake your judgment. The truth is, your greatest opponent has never been another person. It has always been your own impatience, your own emotions, your own need for approval, and your own habit of acting before thinking. The day you master those, you begin playing a completely different game. While others chase quick wins, you build lasting influence. While others argue, you observe. While others react, you calculate. And while others search for power outside themselves, you quietly develop the kind of strength that cannot be taken away. Never forget this: knowledge gives you information. Experience gives you wisdom, but self-mastery gives you freedom. And freedom is the highest form of power. So the next time life tests your patience, the next time someone tries to provoke you, the next time you feel the urge to prove yourself, pause. Observe, think one move further than everyone else, because the person who controls their mind controls their decisions, and the person who controls their decisions ultimately shapes their destiny. If this message challenged the way you think, then don't let it remain just another video you watched. Choose one rule. Practice it every single day. Small changes in the way you observe, speak, and respond can create extraordinary changes in the direction of your life. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another journey into strategy, psychology, and personal mastery. Until next time, stay patient, stay aware, keep learning, and remember, the strongest move is often the one no one sees coming.